Anil R. Chinchawade, working as an assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering. Today in this session, we are going to discuss one of the important concept in object-oriented paradigm, that is inheritance. So I welcome you all in this session. Let us first understand what are the learning outcomes of this session. At the end of this session, students will be able to implement inheritance concept in Java language. Students are also able to identify and use the different type of inheritances to solve the real world problems. Let us first understand what do we mean by an inheritance. So inheritance in Java or in object oriented paradigm is a mechanism in which one object acquires the properties and behaviors of its parent object. The idea behind inheritance in Java is that we can create new classes that are built upon existing classes. So this particular thing leads to the concept of reusability. It means instead of implementing which is already exist, what we can do is we can reuse it. When we inherit from an existing class, we can reuse methods and fields of the parent class. Along with this, moreover, we can add new methods and fields in our current class also, which leads to the concept of extendability. So inheritance mainly focuses on reuse and extendability. Inheritance represents the relationship called is a relationship, which is also known as parent-child relationship. Let us understand the concept of is a relationship with some real-world examples. For an example, car is a vehicle, where we can say that car is a vehicle. So there is a relationship between car and vehicle, where car is considered as subclass and vehicle is considered as superclass. Also, you can say orange is a fruit, surgeon is a doctor, so dog is an animal. So these are some of the examples where you are establishing the is a relationship between multiple classes. Let us understand what are the uses of inheritance. So basically these are two important uses of inheritance. First thing, we can use inheritance when we want to achieve reusability. This is also called as code reusability. So in this particular thing, what we are going to do is we can use the existing features of class and we can extend it. One of the other use of inheritance is we can do runtime polymorphism, or we can achieve runtime polymorphism through method overriding. We are going to discuss this particular concept in upcoming sessions. Now these are the different important terms that are used in inheritance. Let us understand what do you mean by class first. So class is a group of objects which have common properties. So all the objects belongs to a particular class have some common properties and attributes. It is also called as a template or blueprint for which objects are created. Now second term is subclass, which is also called as child class. So what do you mean by subclass? Subclass is a class which inherits the other class, and the other class is nothing but it becomes parent for current class. It is also called as a derived class or extended class or also child class. So these are different naming conventions or names that we can use for subclass. Superclass or parent class. So this is nothing but superclass is the class from where a subclass inherits the features. It is also called as base class or parent class interchangeably. Now last term is reusability. As the name specifies, reusability is a mechanism which facilitates us to reuse the fields and methods of an existing class, using which we can create some new classes. Now let us understand what is the syntax of Java inheritance. So to inherit any of the other class, we can use the following syntax. The syntax says that it starts with a class definition for class with the keyword class followed by subclass name, or you can say it is a subclass which is extending the another superclass. So syntax is class keyword followed by subclass name followed by extends keyword and then we mention the superclass name that we want to inherit, and this particular class has its own methods and fields as per requirement. So this is the simple and useful syntax that we can use for achieving inheritance in Java. Now let us take an example of inheritance in real world. Here we have three classes. First one is person class, second one is student class, and third one is teacher class. So person class acts as a base class or parent class for student and teacher class. So here person class has some attributes like name, age and hair color. It has some behaviors which are also called as methods like walk, eat and speak. So these are the attributes and the behaviors of person class, which is acting as a parent class for student and teacher. Now student and person has a relationship called is a relationship. We say that student is a person and also teacher is a person. Now student class will have all the attributes which are defined in person class and it derives them, and also it can have its own attributes and behaviors. In this example we have added a behavior called study, mentioning some subjects specifically for student. The teacher class is another class which is also inheriting the person class. It will inherit all the attributes and behaviors of its parent called person, along with it is defining its own behavior called teach. So this is how student class and teacher class are using, which is pre-exist in form of person class. Now let us understand how exactly constructors are used in inheritance. So we have some default constructors. So default constructor is called automatically if no constructor is found in the code. But whenever we have some parameterized constructor, in order to initialize some of the attributes, then we must write down the default constructor as well, because now your JVM or Java virtual machine is no more going to provide you the default constructor automatically, or it has been called. So in Java, constructor of the base class with no arguments gets called automatically in the derived class constructor. So let us see these examples with the help of super keyword and without the help of super keyword. So let us go to an example. So this is the example number 1. Let me open it. Now here I have a class called base class, which is also a parent class. Now in base class there are no attributes defined, but it has a constructor, and this constructor has one print statement which is printing the statement called base class constructor is called. Now this is my derived class which is extending the base class, and it has its own constructor called derived, and it is also printing one statement like derived class constructor is called. So here my base class is acting as a parent and derived class is acting as a child class. Now this is my driver class with name program1. Here I have written one main method. So simply I have created an object of derived class, and for creating an object we call the constructor of this particular class, that is derived. As and when we call this particular derived class, this is the only statement which is available in my main method. Now as and when this particular constructor is called for creating an object of derived class, automatically and implicitly the default constructor of base class also gets executed. So let us see with a real demo after executing. See, we have created an object of derived class only by calling the constructor of derived class, but implicitly the derived class constructor has called the default constructor of base class as well. So this is how the constructors are behave in the concept of inheritance. Now let me minimize this, go back. Now this is how we have demonstrated the behavior of constructor without using super keyword. Now let us take another example where explicitly we call the constructor of super class using super keyword. So let us take the another example. Here we have defined a base class with name base1. It has one attribute instance variable called I, and this is initialized with the help of this constructor base1, which is taking one parameter called I, and we are initializing it with the statement this dot I equals to I. So this is with respect to base class. Now I have a derived class with name derived1, which is extending base1. Now derived class also has one attribute called j. This derived class constructor is now responsible for initializing its own attribute called j and provide value of I for its parent. Now whenever we create an object of this derived class, obviously we need to initialize both the attributes of derived class as well as base class. So we need to pass two values, one is for I, another one is for j. I is present in base class and j is present in subclass. So what we do, before we initialize the attributes of derived class, we explicitly pass the values for attributes of its superclass by using super keyword. So super keyword followed by parenthesis and including the required attributes will call the constructor of superclass and initialize the attributes of superclass. So here we are initializing the attribute of superclass, that is I, by passing value in this particular call. So let us, this particular function or method is used to print the value of I and j, and it is defined in subclass. Now this is my driver class where main method is exist. Here also simply I create an object of derived class by passing two values 10 and 20. So obviously 10 is copied into I and 20 is copied into j. Now let us go back to the constructor of derived class. So I will contain 10 and j will contain 20 as per our actual values that are passed during object creation. Now super I, this particular statement will call the constructor of superclass and pass the value 10, and that 10 value is assigned to the attribute I in the base class. Now here we are explicitly calling the constructor of superclass with the help of super keyword. Let us run this code. We click on program 2 and run this particular file, and we get the output as I is equal to 10 and j is equal to 20. It means the constructor of subclass has called the constructor of superclass using the super keyword, and then it has initialized I and followed by it has initialized j also. So this is how you can call the constructor of superclass by using super keyword. Now let us understand the different types of inheritances which are supported in Java. So this is the list which says there are different types like single inheritance, multiple inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance and hybrid inheritance. So let us understand these different types of inheritances with a specific diagram. So here in single inheritance we have a single base class which is derived by a single derived class. So there is only one parent and one child exist in this particular type of inheritance. Now we have another type of inheritance, that is multiple inheritance, where a single derived class, or you can say child class, is deriving the multiple base classes. If a particular class derives the attributes and behaviors of more than one class, then it is called multiple inheritance. In Java, multiple inheritance is not supported because Java does not want any type of ambiguity while deriving the attributes from parent class. We have multi-level inheritance. It is used in many of the applications or real world applications where one base class is derived by one derived class, and again a derived class is derived again by another derived class. So here there is a relationship called parent, child and grandchild. So this is how multi-level inheritance is supported in Java. Now we have hierarchical inheritance where one base class is derived by more than one derived classes. So this is also possible in Java and allowed in Java. Lastly, we have hybrid inheritance where we have combinations of all type of inheritance that we are seen earlier. So here we can have a in multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, multiple inheritance, but as Java does not support multiple inheritance, so last possibility and last combination may not be possible, where derived class 3 is trying to inherit the attributes of derived class 1 and derived class 2. It is not supported in Java, but as an example we can look at this particular diagram for understanding hybrid inheritance. Now just pause your video and try to answer this particular question. The question says, which of these is the correct way of inheriting class A by class B? We have options A, B, C and D. Now let us understand the answer for this, and the answer is option C, where class B extends class A, means class B is the child class and class A is a parent class. Let us try to answer this particular question. What will be the output of following Java program? Read it carefully and understand the logic and answer it. The answer is option A with answer 1 and 2. So these are the references that are used for creating the content. Thank you.